Previously I spoke about the General Assembly of the Church in Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands and told you a few stories about that, and how at the end of it there was complete silence as people contemplated the closing statement of that assembly. You're with Mission Alive. This is Roger from MSC Mission Office. I want to continue that story a little bit in terms of its importance for the church and some of the difficulties we have in these events. And I spoke of one that people from the highlands coming down to lay for that assembly, there was a landslide across the Highlands Highway and they couldn't get across because the people said there were people buried under the landslide and therefore those people could not walk across. The previous General Assembly, the Solomon Islands didn't come, although they were part of the Bishops' Conference, and everybody would like to have seen them there. But at that time in the Solomon Islands they had a few difficulties. One was up in the western province of Solomon Islands, Gizo, there was an earthquake and a tsunami which disrupted large parts of that part of the world, and a good number of Gilbertese settlers were killed by the tsunami because they camped on a beach and the tsunami just came in and wiped them out. And for the cathedral church there at Gizo at the time, it really shook that church and it was in danger of falling down. So that was a limiting factor there. At that time too, the BRA, the Bougainville Revolutionary Army, from Bougainville in Papua New Guinea had come down to Gizo and virtually took over the town, and they had guns and they brought their wounded and their sick down to the hospital in Gizo. So that too was upsetting things in that part of the world. Now also for the Solomon Islands, at that time there was what we call the ethnic tensions between the people of Malaita Island and the people of Guadalcanal. And that's got a whole history and background to that. But there was fighting and disruption of many things on both Guadalcanal and Malaita. So with that, the three bishops of the Solomon Islands said, sorry, we're not coming this time. But in 2013, when we had the second assembly, they did come and they made a significant contribution to the assembly in terms of their presence there, their engagement with prayer and the Eucharist, and in the discussion, because they brought a whole different experience of church to that assembly. So they were a significant group there. So when they were in the discussion groups, the mixed discussion groups, they had quite a lot to contribute. And this is important for the Church of Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. And important in that too was that just the gathering of people, 160 people, priests, bishops, priests, religious, lay people, men, women, young and old. And in deciding who was coming from each diocese, we ensured that there was a woman as representative of the women, and one youth, and that person could be male or female. So we had quite a range of people, and for the religious, many were sisters, so they also then had the perspective of being a woman and a religious in that. So they brought a lot to the discussion, and that was important in terms of understanding who we are as church in that part of the world. And it involved a lot of listening. And this is the aspect in our church of dialogue, that we listen to people. And the principle of dialogue is, somebody said, we have one mouth and we have two ears. So you listen twice and you speak once. And that's a principle that you listen, and you listen very carefully. And with dialogue, you listen attentively to the other person speaking, and when you speak the truth as best you know it. And in that sort of a forum where you have such a mixture of people, all that was important and all that was very productive. And it gave to people a great experience of being church in the world today. And this is part of our mission, and thank you for being on mission with us.